there is no handout. Maybe somebody want to this my presentation material. After then, I'll share. Or students want to take a copy or other things. Everything sharing. Right, now we'll continue to other concept, some rural development. Right, agricultural development we covered. Next is rural development. I really appreciate that before that because these are some lunch, after lunch there are some take a nap or some very difficult time, but there is no take a nap. Wow, very active, right. Sometimes I hear some public lecture, some people napping. But anyway, I fully understand that. But anyway, some rural development. There are some kind of rural development pictures in Korea or some other country. The rural development is a process, some improving the opportunities of well-being rural people. I think it's quality of life, of well-being, and change the characteristics of rural society. And then there are human resource development, human development. And then some social environmental objective as opposed to just the economic one. So that's the rural development, very broad concept. In rural development also some industrial aspect, also some health, education, and other social service, very broad. Also, there are some multi-sector approach, some promoting some agriculture, also extracting mineral. I think some country, very important industries, mining industry, so it's a mineral, or some tourism. Some people use that, some green tourism, but anyway, some tourism, also recreation, and some niche manufacturing. So in rural development, a lot of economic activities, including here, some I already mentioned about green tourism or recreation or manufacturing. Intrinsically, agriculture is a basic things. I think everybody understands this concept, very familiar with it. Next one is transformation. Rural transformation is mentioned about the first component in inclusive rural development is some agricultural productivity. In order to increase the agricultural productivity, the most important thing is technology. Everybody knows about green revolution? Why? Green revolution dramatically improved agricultural productivity, particularly on rice and maize or, right, good. Anyway, the technology is very important. So other things, technology advanced, efficiency concept, or some competitive agriculture, increasing commercialization. I think somebody already know about market surplus, because in order to be profit or some market surplus, the most important thing is commercialization. Maybe some portion is self-sufficient in farm housing hold, and if the surplus is to sell the market, we call this one is commercialization, and then market surplus. And there are a lot of activity is diversification or production patterns, and some livelihood, or also some rising agro processing, or some expanded off-farm employment, or some entrepreneurial opportunity, or better agricultural coverage access to service and infrastructure, is a capacity to influence relevant policy process. I think in order to inclusive rural development, I think is based on some rural transformation importance. So we call very same terminology on rural, inclusive rural development and inclusive rural transformation, a very similar approach. So I show that this one. Rural, inclusive rural transformation. I already mentioned my 5 components. There are three basic things: economic and social and political right in developing their ability. And then some rural inclusion. There are extents to which in rural sectors can enjoy bearable rights and opportunity, especially for the women and indigenous people. I think some country, indigenous people, importance, maybe also ethnic minority, and especially for the young people in youth also, rural inclusion is a very important factor. And then some structural transformation is very broad concept, both in cause and effect of economic growth. In economic aspect and structural transformation importance, maybe some increasing importance of industry and service sector, and then some rising productivity in agriculture and then urban economy. In the structural change, also concern about this part. Also change in the composition of economy from their preponderance of agriculture to industry and service. And then international trade. Also rural and urban migration, I think in urbanization. In Korea, it's a long time ago, maybe 30 or 40 years ago, rural-urban migration is important. I don't know, maybe some country very important in urban and rural migration, or some increasing urbanization, right? It's very important. And maybe some East Asian country is rural and urban migration. Also, realization of demographic transition from high and low birth rate. Especially in Korea, is in the total birth rate, how do you say, fertility rate in Korea is quite low, 0.78. Maybe some African country more than 1.5 or around 2. Right? I think in Korea is the lowest country in the world. That means just 2 years ago, from 2 years ago, Korea population decreasing. Very serious issue. I think it's most of your country is increasing population. However, especially in Korea, in younger generation in Korea, there is no child. There is not very, very serious issue. I don't know. Which country is more than 1.5 total fertility rate? Good. Why? Your economic potential is quite high. I think maybe other country, most of country 1.5. I think in Japan, in Korea, quite low. In structural transformation, population is the most important thing to increasing economic activity. And then this is some theoretical aspect, some relation between some rural transformation and then structural transformation. I think in rural transformation as a part of broader process of a structural transformation shaped by the interlinkage between agriculture and rural non-farm economy and manufacturing and service. That means first, primary and secondary and tertiary education, tertiary industry is a linkage. I already mentioned about some fixed industry is a representative example in Korea or in Japan. And then inclusive rural transformation hinges on the agriculture, which retain its importance of as the transformation unfolds, requiring district agricultural policy to be adopted at different stage of rural transformation. I think different country and rural development strategy for their inclusive rural development. I'll mention about the later part of Korean perspective of inclusive rural development. Dimension of inclusive rural development. I already mentioned about the 5 components. However, the Professor Fernando, a key driver of rural development is there are 3 factors. High over economic growth, that means economic perspective, or economic land reform, or rural infrastructure, or effective institutions, some governance framework, rural financial service, or some non-farm enterprise and services, some policy aspect. He suggests 3 dimensions of inclusive rural development, very similar approach. I think already about IFAD suggests 5 components: economic aspect, the marketable surplus, off-farm employment, better access, and governance. He suggests interrelated 3 dimensions: economic dimension, and then some political dimension based on some governance or capacity, and then some social dimension. He suggests this concept. This concept, ADB, suggests this approach. I think IPAT suggests 5 components. However, ADB representative scholar, Fernando, suggests the 3 components: economic and political and social. Anyway, it's a very similar approach. However, everybody understands the 5 components of IPAT suggesting economic, agricultural productivity, or market surplus, or off-farm employment, better access, and then governance. Right, and then this time is enhancing. How to enhance inclusive rural development? I think in this part, in Korean perspective, I think your country different policy or some different approach. I'll illustrate for some Korean perspective, enhancing the rural development. We call inclusive rural development is some kind of inclusive, integrated approach in rural development. There are principles of integrated rural development. In Korean case, re-emphasize the needs of the comprehensive approach to rural development. The most important thing is the innovative approach towards the rural development. Usually it's a bottom-up or top-down. However, in Korean perspective, more concerned about some bottom-up approach. However, most of the country is not much bottom-up, usually top-down. The government is setting some framework and then top-down approach. Or living NAB approach. Who do you know the living NAB approach? Have you heard about that? Living NAB. Have you heard about living NAB approach? No? The first time? Living NAB? I think living NAB approach is, for example, some problem for the rural development or some other big issue. In order to solve this problem, there are a lot of stakeholders, policymakers, and businessmen, and economists, and then farmers, all together, and then solving that problem. We call this kind of thing is a living NAB approach. I think if you want is more detailed thing, if you visit some living NAB approach, I think 4 years ago, There are G20 meeting in Tokyo in agricultural area. I think 2019 in May. I participate representative in Korean expert. At the time, we discussed about living lab approach. Korea is not much concerned about at that time. I returned after meeting. I returned to my country. I suggest in government official, Korean agricultural problem, we apply for the living lab approach because in agricultural issue or rural development issue, a lot of stakeholders all together, and then serve the discussion about some problem or some agenda. So we call it living lab approach. I think if you return to your country, you applied living lab approach in agricultural and rural area is the most important thing. So living lab approach, that kind of things. And then inter-sector partnership and local action leader or interactive approach, expert with the people rather than to people. I think a strategic approach, long-term perspective, or sustainability program or sustainable and proper use of local resource. I think in this approach, is Korean case is much concerned about this principle of integrate rural development. I think if you return to your country, in order to setting the strategy of rural development, keep in mind principles of integrate rural development approach. Integrate representative of integrated rural approach, we call some inclusive rural development. There are some, this one. They promote overall development in rural poor, and then efficient or effective approach for rural development. Able to identify, analyze, and solve a rural problem, and also tool for some controlling unemployment, migration in rural area, optimal utilization of local resource and rural resource. Finally, act as a catalyst to foster meaning people's participation. I think people participation is the most important things. There are one very important or very illustrated example in Korean case. Have you heard about Samaurundong? Okay, good. That's the illustrate. I share in Korean case in Samaurundong. Samaurundong means 새 is a new. 마을 means a village. 운동 means a movement. So, Korea Samaur Undong, exactly new village movement as an illustrate of inclusive rural development. The mainly implement is community-based, community-driven. Community is the most important thing. We call some community-driven development. Also, comprehensive, I already mentioned about multi-level or some multi-sectoral approach. There are three component things or some guiding spirit. There are three components, three factors. Diligence, I think cooperation, and self-help. There are three things. Diligence, 근면. Have you ever a Korean word? Have you learned about in your Korean class? 근면? No, very difficult. But anyway, 근면 is a diligence. And then self-help, 자조. Korean say is a 자조, self-자조. And then some finally cooperation is 협동, right, good. Is we call some cooperation. There are three guiding spirit, 근면, 자조, 협동. I think everybody in Korean understanding this three spirit But anyway, diligence means a strong work ethics, and then self-help means sense of ownership and responsibility, and cooperation means some sense of community for mutual help. So 근면, 자조, 협동. In English is a diligence and self-help and cooperation. I think different country applied for a different terminology or different aspect, but in Korean case, maybe at the time, I'll show later, President Park Chung-hee, I think three spirit is the most important thing in New Village movement in Korea. So diligence, self-help, and cooperation. The strategy, the initiation of Samaul Undong was this one. I keep in mind. Just a moment, please. Right, this one is the background. I think it's a long time ago. I think 1960. At the time, the Korean GDP, per capita GDP, is around 100 US dollars. 1960 or 1961. I was born in 1961. My very difficult times in Korean economy. But anyway, some transformation for the traditional agrarian economy. At the time, Korean agricultural proportion in GDP around 40%. I think it's in some country already 40 or 50% in agricultural GDP in the whole economy. In Korea in 1960, maybe around 60 years ago. And then Korean economy. Korean is resource endowment is quite low. So Korean national strategy is export-oriented industrial economy. So government much concerned about how to export economy. We call some economy export-oriented economy. So high growth of export industry, especially for the labor-intensive. Which industries are labor-intensive? Would you know that? No, more intensive. Which, not agriculture. I mean, which area is labor-intensive industry? Exactly right. Textile is the most important. Right. 1960, Korean government, most important industry, textile. Right. Your pinpoint is right. And then some right industry. So at that time is Korean economy based on some textile and labor-intensive industry and right industry. Most of employment in that industry. So non-farm sector, many in rural people working some textile, some farms or textile industry. Also, what is this one? And then some rural-urban development. This one is garment, 1963, export factory. It's some kind of textile industry. The garment export industry in 1960. Many women, working people in that industry. So after that, there are urban and rural gap quite high. The growth gap between some industrial sector and agricultural sector during 1967 and 1971 is about 20% is 1.5 in agriculture and usually industrial sector quite high. And urban living standard improved more faster than that of in rural area. I think it's a very similar situation in Korea, most of developing member country. Also decreasing, at the time, rural population is more than 50% in Korea, very similar 60 years ago, due to the rural-urban migration quite very fast. This one is based on the Samaul movement. The initiation, or this one. initiation, just starting from 1970, the initiation of Semaul-Undong. The first one is rural development, rural infrastructure. Cement distribution in the first year, 1970, the central government provides 300 bags of cement per village without there's a kind of government subsidy in charge of all 33, 267 villages over the world, over the country. In the special for the winter season, there is no work. Usually in winter season, in agricultural or farming activities very limited. So government, in winter season, provide some 300 bags of per village in cement, and then there are some streets. This one is all rural village, the rural village construction or other things. Government supply rural people. This one, historically, I found some government President Park Chung-hee is 1970, July 21st. He National Council meeting of local minister. He announced Semaul movement, 1970, April 22nd. This is a picture, very historical symbol site for announcing or initiating Semaul movement in Korea. And then this one is a long time ago, around 70. There are some road construction. There are some Semaul plaque. This one is a Semaul plaque. Semaul New Village Movement. This is a plaque. So many rural peoples working together to this kind of work. And then there are some priority. There are a lot of in rural area. Which one is a more priority for rural development? There are 10 priority. The first one, I think everybody understanding your country, different perspective, different priority. However, in Korea, in early 1970, there are some village access road to strengthen the widen. I think it's a road is the most important two things to improve the rural people. And then some old bridge over stream to be constructed. Maybe this kind of thing. I think previous picture, I already showed that. And then village road to be widened and strengthened. This one. The fourth one, sewage system. I think your country also in rural area, rural people, some sewage system in village to be improved, right? And then and then fifth is thatched roof. I think this one. This time, in order to see this kind of thing, it's Pok village, maybe some historical site. But this time there is no. This kind of thing is a thatched roof replacement. These kind of things, and replaced by cement, made by tile or some straight roofing, and old fences, farmhouse, and traditional wells, just some drinking water, and village hall, maybe some education or training in village part. We call some village hall. Maybe every country most of country in rural electrification. I remember my elementary school time in early 1960. At the time, electrification in rural area in Korea, maybe 50 years ago. And then finally, village-owned telephone. However, this time is most of country already smartphone. There is no telephone, right? Smartphone. Every country or everyone already smartphone is very common. of the world. So very interesting in just a kind of historically approach priority in Korea, I think. But I illustrate in Korean case. This one is government and public sector. I just showing or just keep in mind some public sector management for implementing 새마을 운동. There are rural development is central government or local government and village community. I think this one is very important thing. Is central government, some control tower of 새마을 운동, and then local government facilitating of 새마을 운동 at village level. Also, village community is part meeting and decision making of 새마을 project. The most important thing is also here. Leader, this leader, the village leader, is the most important thing. He's a facilitator or some kind of a leader, facilitation of new village movement at village level, also monitoring of 새마을 운동 in village level. So this is a basic framework, 새마을 운동 approach in Korean case. I think your country also very similar approach. So in order to success in this kind of thing, is leader is the most important things. So Korean government much concerned about the effective training of 새마을 운동 leaders. I think this one is kind of a sequential approach. I think in order to be inclusive rural development, we need more time or a lot of span. Korean government about 10 years span. In the first phase, 1970 or 1973, more 3 to 4 years, kind of cultivating rural environment or expanding some production infrastructure, also enabling governance structure or some top to bottom. So already mentioned about some central government or local government or village government. So this kind of thing is established in the first phase, 1970 or 1973, just 4 years. After that is the second phase. 1974 to 1979, they're expanding the program across the whole area, including urban area, establishing final target. So maybe 1979, President Park assassinated by someone. So at that time, it's almost finished for some 새마을 운동. But anyway, 새마을 운동 is approximately 10 years sequential approach. The first one is modernize rural village. Second phase is create income generating activities. So most other part you refer to in this approach in the later my presentation material. But anyway, Korean 새마을 new village movement, approximately 10 years. The first part is, first phase is more modernized rural village, more some village modernizing. Second part is creating income activities. So that kind of thing is more balanced between some inclusive rural development approach. This one is the most important thing. Success story, success factor. Everybody keep in mind in these success factors in Korean case. The first one is central local government intervention and support. So most of this training, this class is a government officer. I think your role is the most important in your ministry or in your country. Central and local government intervention and support. The central government plan or strategy conduct under the guidance of a central organization. Also provide some incentive for community showing excellent result. Everything is performance-based. Government evaluate each village, which villages more perform, and then excellent perform, government provide some prize or some incentive. Also, government frequently meet with the community leaders. I already mentioned about Samar-Undong leaders, and deliver proper service, encourage some villagers. I think we call in kind of system is incentive system based on the performance result. Also, a wide range of people's participation in village level. Also carry out Samar-Undong project with the cooperation of local residents. Is farmers or other local agencies, non-farmers also participate in this program. Also, homogeneity among farmers. Homogeneous means some socio-economic state of farmers, very important across in cooperation among villages. There are the four things. The fifth thing is the development of local administration in rural area. I think in local administration and sub-country level, I already mentioned Eunmyeon in Korea is a town or village level. We call some sub-country level, well established for a long period in rural Korea. Historically, Korea is well established in sub-country level. Finally, a timely implementation of Samar-Undong. The price of land and rural wage at that time is quite low. That's the most important things. I think your country is still in rural area, price of land and rural wage is just still low. Is that right? Good. Right. That means it's a very good chance to apply inclusive rural development in your country. Also, village infrastructure. Most of the country very important in that part. So in the short time, with a little public fund, I think government is a very effective approach to improve the village infrastructure. Korean government concerned about that part in Samar movement. Samar movement expands from global level. Currently, also sharing experience, expertise of the Samar movement, poverty reduction. Usually, currently we call some sustainable development goal apply for some SDG number 1 or SDG number 2 is a poverty reduction, no poverty, zero poverty. And then economic development Korea, world developing member country. Still, there are 35 countries, and then 247 villages applied to Samar movement. I adapted this picture from Samar-Undong Center. You visit some address here, and then they show that some global Samar-Undong suggest. Just an example is the Indonesia case. Current government very much concerned about Indonesian cooperation. And then it was a long time ago, local government of province of who's Indonesian? I keep in mind. I slipped mind his name. What was this one? Oh, where's the Indonesian? What's the this reason? Wow, amazing. Wow, that was good.
Yes,
I think
yes,
so.
Professor. I also want to interrupt that you're not asking about the every audience my friend is talking about the rural, but you forget maybe mention about Indonesia.
Sorry about. Okay.
Yeah. Only me that I'm not sharing information.
My name is here. I slipped my mind. Right. I'm sorry, Ibar. Your name is Ibar?
Yes, Professor.
I'm
Yes.
really sorry about that.
Yeah, it's okay. I prepare for the data, but it's okay maybe, yeah.
What's the Indonesian? What's the rural proportion?
Yeah, sorry. It's a little bit, I want to.
I'm really sorry about that.
Yeah, it's okay, Professor.
I recognized your face. You already mentioned about something, right?
Not yet.
Not yet?
Not yet. Okay, in our country, Indonesia population is now 280 million.
Wow.
Number 4 population.
It's the largest in this class.
But we are not happy about that totally because that's only of comparative, not competitive. Competitiveness is only comparative. It doesn't mean we are totally happy about the big population. That is a kind of beneficially, but not totally happy because it's we are going to talking about competitiveness.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think in the future,
yeah,
2050, your country is will be very strong country.
Thank you, Professor.
Wow.
And what kind of proportion about the rural area is about 42.71%. 42.71%.
Okay,
and urban area is 57.29%. In our meaning about rural area, based on the Ministry of Rural Area, what can I say? Based on the Ministry of Rural Area regulation, government number 10, 2016, we have the meaning about rural area is the mostly economic activity is from agriculture sector, and second, not only agriculture, also fisheries. Because as we know,
fisheries,
fisheries. Yeah, we also including fisheries because Indonesia is archipelago, same with Philippines, many islands, Professor. So it's difficult to access from one island to another island is using sea, ocean. So,
your country a lot of how many islands?
More than 17,000. More than 17,000. The biggest, the biggest archipelago country. So beside of that is about social services, and also many community we can call rural area. If in that area is many local community, like ethnic and also agriculture community, fisheries community.
Okay.
Yeah, Professor, like that.
I really appreciate that. I'm really sorry about I skipped Indonesia. Any other country skipped? Which country? Okay, which country?
80.
80?
Yes. Tanzania.
Oh, Tanzania. I heard about this Upendo.
Yes.
Your name is Upendo?
Yes.
Oh. What's the Tanzania? What's the proportion? I slipped my mind.
It is about 80%.
80?
Yes.
80?
Yeah.
Wow.
80. In rural area.
Wow. In the world is the most. And then, what's the Alois? Tanzania too is good. You mentioned about something. I'm sorry about the Tanzania skip. Also economic, right? You're an economist.
Yes.
Good.
I would like to add on how we describe this rural community. In the country, we are not only focusing on the population is main reason, but also we are looking for infrastructure development, also the population, but not only the population to be described that place if it's a rural community or not.
Okay.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah, but on because We are now about 6.1 million, 60.1 million. So majority of the people, like she said, is about 8 is the rural community.
Okay.
Yes, yes. But now urbanization is growing very fast. But the prediction is about after in 2030, maybe we are going to be on average of 40 to 50 because the urbanization now is growing very, very fast.
Very fast.
Yes,
Maybe Korea also 40 or 50 years ago, very fast urbanizing. Very similar situation. Tanzania, I'm sorry about that, Tanzania and Indonesia. I think it's right. Indonesia case, I think your president 2 or 3 years ago visited Korea. A very good relationship.
Indonesian?
Right.
Yes, Joko Widodo. Yes,
Right, Joko Widodo.
Yes, same alumni.
Right. I think so. Korea, Dong, and Indonesia, I think it's very close cooperation, some tripartite cooperation. We're training some small medium enterprise, also Jakarta, right? To produce market.
Yogyakarta. Yes.
Jakarta, okay. Your country or capital will move in the future?
To another island, yes.
Another island.
Around 1,000 kilometers from Jakarta. Yes.
When is your population around 300?
Almost 300 million.
When?
Yes. Nowadays.
Now?
Nowadays, yes.
What's the rank in the world?
Fourth. Under USA.
And then number one is
India nowadays.
India number one, and then China,
USA,
US, and then
Indonesia.
Wow.
That is just demographic bonus, but we try to be competitiveness. Like Korea only 52 million, right?
Right, 52.
The competitiveness is very high in the world, Professor.
I think your country also very strong point. The younger generation population very high.
Yeah.
Right, that's the good point. I remember a newspaper said that some Indonesia has a strong potential in the future. But anyway, there's some other movement. Dong is very close cooperation in Indonesian case. And then some policy, integrated rural development in Korea. There are some efficiency-oriented, some top-down and then rural approach. There are several reasons, or some main reason: economic efficiency or policy. For the market liberalization, Korea has very limited resource endowment. So Korean government is more focused on export-oriented policy framework. So agriculture was integrated into the market economy away from the government support. The policy direction, there are some two directions. Self-sufficiency is very stable. For example, Korea, stable grain is rice is number one. I think East Asian country, Indonesia or some other, Laos or Philippines, is the most stable food is rice, right? How about the African country? Is it wheat? Maize. Okay, maize is number two. Any other things? Potato? Okay, usually European country or Bolivian is a potato. But anyway, the stable food, Korean, especially Korean food self-sufficiency is quite low, less than 45, 49. It's quite low in OECD member country. Grain self-sufficiency, including livestock feed, less than 20%, maybe 19% or 18%, it seems like that. But anyway, Korean agricultural policy, number one is increasing self-sufficiency, especially for the stable grain, and then to improving the rural household income. Cash crop importance, and livestock and fruits and vegetable. And then creation of non-farm income opportunity is a number third factors in inclusive development of farm employment opportunities. So Korean government established some enact rural income source development law, also making a rural industrial complex. In the Korean government emphasized this one. And then some policy, recently, Korean government emphasized some integrate rural area, comprehensive development. Recently, most of the country based on this one, I think. We call some background. The most important efficiency-oriented top-down approach. The central government is setting up some control tower, and central government provides some subsidy. Also, very limited resident participation. I think it's most of countries very similar situation. This one. Rural settlement. This one picture is physical living condition in this project. Some physical living condition. Korean rural village establishes some exercise. This one or some health. Rural aging issue is quite serious. Maybe more than 65 years old, about 50% in Korea. Quite high. So health issue in rural area established this one. And then during 2000s, this one in recently, some village level development project in recently Korean governments much emphasized the public function of agricultural rural area. So government emphasized this one, or some progressive movement. This one well established. This one is a well established in rural village, or some farmers education forum. I think each village invites some expert, and then farmers forum in winter season or all-farm season, there are kind of some farmers education forum. And then information sharing or policy information sharing. Also, government provides some policy program for farmers. I think this recent program. Here, what's this one? Increasing importance, region-specific. I think your country also much concerned about the region-specific or tailored region-specific program. Some government unilateral development to participate in rural development. Government provides some lump sum subsidy to local government, and then some residence role of village development and environment administration, also resident involvement in policy formulation. This one is government selected. There are some three process. Select the policy target, the competition base. Government provides some major policy program. Maybe many village applied for this program and very competitive. And then some residence role, or some we call some comprehensive rural development project since 2004. This time, if village leader good information and provide well-prepared some document or material, and then applied some government policy program and government support for the strong subsidy or strong money for our rural village development. We call this one is comprehensive rural development program here. Right, select target, and then government investment, very strong investment based on the competitive basis, and then performance evaluation, wide participation, villagers, renovate, such as fence management. I think your country also applied in this approach in recently, very informative for your country's inclusive rural development project. Also, and recently, this one is rural tourism. I think some country already applied some rural tourism policy. Korea is about 2000 applied some rural tourism. Some tourist village developed this one. This one is Wonju is Jeonbuk province. This Korean traditional house, renovate this one. And then there are some, maybe some, we call Hanok village, is a Korean pork village, not pork, Korean house, innovate some hotel or guest house, that kind of thing. That's a Wonju-gun, is Jeonbuk province. Also, consumers' farm experience. The visit there, and there are some kind of growing something, some vegetable or flowering, other things. Some various government agents engaged in the competitively in the tourist village program. If selected this tourist village program, government strongly support for this program. So this one here, various efforts to promote rural tourism, regular arrangement, also insurance coverage, government support for that, also grading system. I think usually hotel, there are some 5-star or 4-star kind of thing. In Korea, is this based on this one. It's a grading system for tourist village. And then expanded, already mentioned about some 6 industry of agriculture here, right? Korean and government applied for the Japanese concept in 1994. In Japan, scholar provided some 6 industry. Korean government applied for the 2010. There are 6 industrialization. Also, government established some legal framework, enacted the Act of 6 industrialization of agriculture in 2015. There is the certification system for 6 industry business, and then provide a special measure of a certified firm. Government certified some firm is a 6 industrialized firm. And then government fosters community firm or community business or village enterprise. I think already some country already applied this program. I think this program is the most important things in Korea. And then some rural area, there are several activities. Here, promote various activities in rural area, some agricultural production area, some manufacturing. We call this kind of thing value chain, right? Manufacturing, processing, or tourism. The first or secondary industry, manufacturing. Third industry is tourism industry, to increasing the value added. Anyway, this one is this kind of approach. Korean government is during 1920 or until 2014, I think. After then, Korean government established some new rural development policy, some active participation in invitation of domestic overseas tourists into rural area. I think government in this kind of approach in European country already applied some green tourism in domestic and overseas tourists into rural area. Korean government concerned about this one, unique tourism product in rural area. So government strongly support in this area. So far registering about 150 business for rural business. I think bed and beverage accommodation and village or hand-on activities. In Korean government concerned about some new rural development policy this one. Finally, application of implication of Korean experience. The Korea IRD, Inclusive Rural Development. The important thing is the public sector leadership is the most important thing. So in that case, appropriate legal framework, also collaboration between central government and local government. Also resident involvement is a very vital factors. And thirdly, infrastructure building. Finally, in rural and urban connection. For example, I think community, we call community-supported agriculture. Have you heard about community-supported agriculture? I think rural people, especially the consumer, pay some money for organic product in rural area. They pay some money already in advance, and then they buy some packaged product, in organic product, buy something. We call this kind of thing is urban-rural connection. We call community-supported agriculture, especially for an organic product in Korea. I think in this kind of things, in recently, Korean government concerned about some, maybe we call some big city close to the rural area, and then developing some urban and rural connection based on organic product, or some previous mention about some consumers' participation, farm activity. So this program is important. Finally, implication of Korean inclusive rural development. The first one is limitation. I think there is one piece all. There is no one piece all policy, only for the Korean experience. However, in your country case, there are some application of a Korean case, Korean experience, different from your country, different model because of Korean case. However, Korean case is somehow movement, new village movement is applied for the global community. Korean expertise, developing country should compare to Korean case, and then some takeaway lesson to suitable to your environment. Finally, I'd like to show some facilitating. There is no break. After then, I'll discuss, and then I'll show some video material. There are 5 facilitating factors. The most important things is how to increase their agricultural productivity or market surplus, commercializing smallholder farmers. Korean agriculture average farm size is 1.6 hectare. It's very small. I think, how about Philippines? Right. How about which country is more than 3 hectares? Right. I think most of the country is a smallholder farmers important. So how to commercialize? I think in Korea, this one, I think I suggest a more broad approach for the smallholder farmers, how to increase commercialization. Smallholders commercialization is the most important. Increase the diversity of market commodity at a national level, and some increasing specialization at regional and commerce. I think different country, different commodity is more, which item is more commercialized, especially in Korea, is in vegetable. Maybe strawberry, more ginseng, or some other maybe some flowers, also very some important commercialization. I think different country, different commercialization. How about Nigeria? Which one is the most important thing is commercialization, commodity? Rice? Okay, rice. Any other country in the flowers? Flower? No? Why? Okay. I think in Korea, it's a flower is important. Here is ADB also suggests some support investment requirement. This picture. I think other is also Cambodia case. I don't know the exactly what's there is no Cambodia, right, this time? What's the name of this vegetable? I don't know. Carrot? Oh, really? Yeah. Carrot in Korea also very. Not carrot.
Is it the first one or this one?
This one. This one is carrot. I mean this one. Cucumber? Yes. Cucumber. Okay. Carrot in Korea also very common. This one. This one is a cucumber. Oh, in Cambodia is a cucumber is the most. Okay. I think different country, different commercialization product. Anyway, is smallholder farmers commercialization is the most important things. I think which Korean case some vegetable is a best strategic commodity in commercialization in Korea. Different country are developing some strategic crop or strategic vegetable for commercializing for smallholder farmers, smallholder agriculture. This one is how to stabilize farmers' income. I think we discussed about in your country case. I think a financial issue quite important. I think it's farmers very limited access to financial sources. So I think microfinance or microcredit in rural area important, especially for fostering inclusive rural development. This an ADB shows that how to microfinance helping poor households in some country, India or other countries, very important one. This one is rural non-farm income diversification, especially off-farm season. In Korean case, winter season or some other off-farm season, how to diversify the income source. I think different country, different off-farm season provide some non-farm income diversification. I think African country, for example, Mozambique or some Nigeria, which in rural area, which non-farm income diversification is the most important thing in African country. How about some Nigeria? Region. Nigeria. Okay.
There are different non-farm income, but depending on the location, some is just handwork. Handwork. Some.
Handwork?
Handwork.
Handwork.
Yes.
Okay. Handicraft something?
Yes. Like tailoring, carpentry.
No.
Yes.
Okay.
So it depends on the location.
Okay. How about in coffee? Do your country provide some coffee? No, not that. Okay, okay. Okay, Nigeria or some. Anyway, different country or some rural social enterprise, such as this one is also important. Rural enterprise. This one, service model or job creation, rural distribution sale, and service model. I think. In Korean case, a lot of green tourism provides some rural social enterprise. I think a different country also different perspective. And then upscaling. This Korean government much concerned about this one. Agricultural industry or food manufacturing altogether, and processing industry, and then tourism industry, create value added. And then public-private partnership, PPP. We call this one is a PPP, is a private, public-private partnership, especially for the in rural area. Government concerned about agricultural innovation in this area importance, enhance the efficiency, or some to foster wider and faster diffusion. This one is some Korean case. Some product processing center provide this on upscaling agricultural industry. 4.3, I'll show some digital agriculture or ICT, information communication technology. We call some smart technology or some convergence technology. Smart farmers, in recently used by some smartphone, is the basis for their modernized agricultural system, some remote and automatic manner, smart farming. I'll show in next part a video in digital agriculture in Korean, best practice in Korean case, digital agriculture. Why is this important in ICT technology? The first one is utilizing advanced some digital technology. I think in recently I read the newspaper in African, I couldn't remember in African country, in the World Bank strongly support for some climate smart agriculture in Africa, some country based on some smartphone provide some weather or climate information provide some farmers, and then farmers decide some early warning system for they provide some which commodity, how to counterpart for the weather event. Is there some African country in this kind of thing? Climate smart agriculture by smartphone? Your country? World Bank provided some big money for.
They make use of the smartphone to create a weather forecast.
Right, that kind of
that
thing.
They will know the right time to plant, the right time to apply fertilizer and other chemicals.
Oh, kind of precision agriculture. Oh, wow, right, amazing, right. I think it's World Bank strongly support for money for African some country. So I think in recent last year, there are, how do you say that? Some, what's the COP? Do you know the COP meeting? In climate change big forum. Oh, I couldn't remember. But anyway, Korean government or EU government, United States, provide big money for counterpart for climate change issue or some carbon neutrality. Big money provided for some climate change issue. We call that kind of thing is climate smart agriculture. Climate smart agriculture is triple gain. Agricultural productivity, also greenhouse gas emission reduction decrease, and then climate change adaptation. We call that kind of thing is climate smart agriculture. International organization, World Bank, and then some ADB or IFAD, FAO, strongly support for that program for developing member country. Anyway, this one is very important in Korean case. There are some moving, what's this one? Trolley system in agriculture. This one is plastic house. Everything is controlled by handphone, and then we call this kind of thing precision agriculture. This one is what's this one? Is in the livestock sector. CCTV, everything is monitored. How do you say? Face recognition technology? Pacer? How do you say in English? But anyway, applied for, right. This one is Korean government, some company developed and then applied for the swine production and pig management. We call in this kind of things important. Also, Korean government established a large scale, about 30 hectare, more than 30 hectare, effective facility for smart farm, and then large scale smart farm complex. I don't know if you have a chance to visit a rural area. There are 4 large scale smart farm in there. I don't know. Kangwon village there is no. Maybe some Jeonnam, Jeonbuk, Gyeongnam, Gyeongbok. Maybe some southern part. There are big smart farm innovation village in there. If you want to visit here, if you ask some professor, visit here. There are some big smart farm village. Maybe some summer vacation sometime. If you want to visit, ask the professor. Have a good chance. Finally, capacity building. I think you also participate in innovation and training is to be your capacity building, modernizing agricultural education and training system, rural residents competence education, especially for in Korean case women. I think women empowerment, especially in rural area, is the most important thing. So government is especially concerned about some key agents, rural women, is the most important thing. So there are professional smart farm training or education system. I think most of the country, women, rural farmers is the most important. African country or other country, right? Korean government much concerned about this rural woman education system. Also reinforcements of professional education or establishment of network in this part. Also, Korean government concern, I think your country also some consultant education for the education, some professional education or some smart technology or other things. Currently, I'm working in Seoul National University. We are developing some global high-tech agricultural network. Currently applied for the Bangladesh Agricultural University, and then extend some Philippines and India, maybe other step, support from Asian Bank Development. Seems like your program, maybe 30 master program and 5 PhD during 5 years. We'll start maybe next to March. I'm not sure. It's up in the air due to the COVID-19 break. Anyway, consultants or higher education is the most important things in the future. And then finally, I discuss about some today. There are 5 factors. Inclusive rural development. There are 5 things. Inclusive rural development is the process in which rising agricultural productivity, we discuss a lot of things, and then increasing some market surplus or expanded off-farm employment opportunity, better access to service and infrastructure, finally, capacity to influence policy only to improve the rural livelihood and inclusive growth. Keep in mind this one. the concept of rural development. They're undergone metamorphosis during the last 3 decades, as the focus now shifts from agricultural production and wide area or inclusive rural development. Ultimate goal, watch this one. Ultimate goal and approach inclusive rural development, improving the quality of life all members of rural society. Also, holistic approach, integrated approach is essential. And then I'd like to emphasize, there is no one-size-fits-all policy solution enhancing inclusive rural development. Different country and different perspective. Each country has its own priority. I think your country, which one is more priority? Korean case, also the most important thing, different country or different perspective. In order to become a country that responds to the new inclusive rural development, I'd like to emphasize this one, the positive change of perspective and idea of rural and agriculture are essential. I think positive is the most important things. Especially in Korea and recently, many rural area and rural people are very pessimistic, not positive. In the future, we're worried about in the future in rural area. So in recently, we are concerned about some more positive, more pessimistic. In the future is the most important thing. I will mention about in think outside the box in next page. For the inclusive rural development, have to stop wrong practice and boundary take the path of drastic change and innovation. Innovation is the most important things. I would like to emphasize this one. Finally, think the outside the box. Unorthodox innovation. We call this kind of thing is new terminology, unorthodox innovation for inclusive rural development. There are 3 components. Think different, right? Think another. And then already mentioned about something positive. There are 3 components. Think different, think another, and think positive. And then this one is a more innovative or revolutionary idea. I would like to mention about concluding remark by Einstein. I would like to finish my lecture by quoting Albert Einstein. This is Einstein's picture. He said that insanity is that doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So everybody keep in mind, have to change that innovation or some think outside the box. This one, finally, I would like to introduce my last December 15th, 2022. ADB asked to there some productivity talk. Today, I already mentioned about inclusive growth. If you have a chance to time, please visit YouTube. My lecture is over there. There are interview. We call productivity talk. Provide some Asian productivity organization. My interview in there. If you want to more, today's I already review all kind of things, and then I core part interview in P-Talk. Please visit here. And then we'll discuss about, if you have some question or any other things, we'll discuss about. Maybe 10 to 15 minutes. Now floor is open. Maybe Tanzania first. If you have any questions, or please comment, or any other inclusive rural development. I don't know, Tanzania also 80% lived in rural area. So your country is the most important. How to develop in rural area? Which is the most priority in your country, in Tanzania, first? Who's the first? Upendo. And Alois. Who's response? Alois? Here. Right. You're excellent.
Okay. Thank you, Professor, for a nice presentation. By considering that Tanzania, majority of people are living in a rural community, I think once we and even now the situation now, the government trying to invest a lot on infrastructure development.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because we have one project from World Bank about BBT, build the better future tomorrow. It's called Build Better Tomorrow. Which is a lot of billion, and all this project is about infrastructure development based on agriculture, like irrigation schemes, electricity, and as you mentioned about this forecasting weather, so that the farmer, they can have access on predictability about the weather, when they're supposed to do what. So based on what you have been presenting on the transforming the rural community is very, very important by considering this developing nation, because still majority employed on agriculture. And all these people who are working on agriculture are living in rural communities. So without a rural development, that means we cannot achieve economic development because despite, you see, like in your country, agriculture is employed 8%, but the contribution to GDP agriculture is 28 to 30.
28, okay.
Yes. So the contribution is still very, very low, but majority employed there. So if we want to move from poverty, that means we need to invest a lot on rural development. And even now, my government doing a lot so that to transform this community. And also we are learning here in Korea what you did for agrarian revolution. For those movement they've been doing for those years, really transformed the community, because without first succeeding to the food security, you cannot move from poverty and economic growth.
Wow.
Thank you, Professor.
I think your ministry is the Ministry of Investment, Industry, and Trade. Your ministry cover agriculture?
I'm coming from Vice President office, but I've been working with various projects from Minister of Agriculture, yes.
Good. And then Indonesia, please. Which one is the most important, more priority in your countries in rural, inclusive or rural development?
Okay, Professor. One of the most important in our country for this case is about rural development, right? Rural development is about infrastructure.
Infrastructure.
Yes, nowadays infrastructure, because when we talking about infrastructure, that is about transportation, movement of things, goods to one place to another place, about logistic. So opening infrastructure, that's mean opening market, Professor.
Okay.
Yeah, if we want to develop rural area, a product from your rural area, we have to integrate it from the farming into the market. So, yeah,
good.
like a supply chain, value chain, everything is have to be connected each other. So we can make we can make a system, world system, good system from the what can I say? From the beginning into the end user,
Mhm.
Professor. Thank you.
I think your position, head of section, also very important develops in your country and
Yes,
rural
Professor.
area. Okay.
Yes.
Now we'll show some video for digital agriculture, approximately 6 minutes, please. And then we'll discuss. I think this is a best practice for in Korea, some digital agriculture in Korea. This video will be provided FAO in your future. Currently not open to the public. You're in this class the first. We just finished in this project recently. 소리가 안 나요? 소리.
농사를 짓기 전엔 11년간 IT 기업에서 근무를 했었습니다. 귀농 준비를 하며 우연히 ICT 온실 교육을 들었는데 매력적이다. 나도 해볼만 하겠다. 그렇게 생각한 게 ICT 온실의 시작이었던 것 같습니다.
신대륙을 발견한 느낌 같은 거였습니다. 왜냐하면 노지 과수에는 디지털 기술을 적용한 사례가 거의 없었거든요. 굉장히 기대도 있었는데 한편으로는 좀 두려움도 없었습니다. 워낙 할 것도 많았고 그리고 뭐부터 해야 될지도 사실 좀 막막한 부분이 있었습니다.
이걸 도입하면 진짜 편하겠다. 네, 그런 생각을 했습니다.
이게 앞으로 농업이 나아갈 길이다라고 생각을 했습니다. 경험에서 의존하는 농법에서 벗어나서 과학적인 농업을 할 수 있다는 것이 굉장히 혁신이라고 생각을 했습니다.
저는 오연동 벨로형 스마트팜 온실에서 ICT 환경 제어 장비를 활용해 대추방울 토마토를 기르고 있습니다. 제가 ICT 환경 제어 컴퓨터에 토마토가 가장 좋아하는 온도와 습도, CO2를 설정해 뒀는데요. 온실 내부에 설치된 센서를 통해 다양한 환경 정보가 실시간으로 측정되면 ICT 환경 제어 시스템은 자동으로 장비를 가동해 제가 설정해 두었던 조건이 되도록 합니다. 일사량과 누적광에 따라 토마토가 필요로 하는 양분을 양이끼가 양분과 지하수를 믹싱해 식물에게 직접 주게 되는데요. 배지와 배액의 무게를 통해 증산은 잘 되고 있는지 뿌리 상태는 어떤지 알 수 있습니다. 감이란 느낌이 아닌 정확한 데이터를 기반으로 작물을 재배하기 때문에 오랫동안 작물을 재배했던 분들의 재배 경험을 80에서 90% 이상 따라갈 수 있다는 것이 가장 큰 장점인 것 같습니다.
저희는 작년 보온에 추가로 신축사를 지으며 ICT 장비를 도입했는데요. 제 생각의 핵심 장비는 자동급이기입니다. 이 장비는 사료급이를 자동으로 제어하고 사료급이량이나 잔여량 등을 측정해 줍니다. 예전에 사람이 일일이 해야 했던 일들을 기계가 대신하면서 정확해졌고 노동력이 크게 줄었습니다. 또한 돈사 내부의 환경을 관리하는 시스템을 갖췄는데요. 계절에 상관없이 일정한 환경 조성을 함으로써 돼지들에게 일정한 생육 환경을 제공할 수 있는 것이 장점입니다. ICT 기기를 도입한 신축사의 수출화 성적이 훨씬 좋고 이유두수도 1도 정도 높고 돼지 사선도 크게 줄었습니다.
저희는 2017년에 노지 포도에 다양한 ICT 기술을 도입을 했습니다. 스마트폰을 이용해서 농장을 제어하고 다양한 데이터를 확인할 수 있는 모바일 프로그램을 하나 만들었고요. 또 저희 기관은 각 농장의 환경 데이터를 취합해서 실시간으로 관제할 수 있는 그런 프로그램을 개발해서 운영 중에 있습니다. 화성 ICT 종합정보 시스템은요, 화성시의 기상을 정밀하게 관측해서 3일 이내의 기상 예측 데이터를 활용해서 화성시 미래 기상 지도를 만듭니다. 이것들을 각 농가 단위로 예측해서 병해충이나 기상 위험 발생 정보를 개별 농가별로 다 전송을 하고 있습니다. 일단 노지 과수에서도 과학적으로 센서 값에 의한 제어를 할 수가 있어서 굉장히 큰 성과 중에 하나라고 생각하고요. 또 지금 우리나라도 고령화가 되고 있지만 농촌은 훨씬 더 심각한 상황입니다. 농촌 고령화 대응해서 원격으로 밭을 제어할 수 있는 노동력 절감 효과도 두 번째로 가장 큰 효과 중에 하나라고 생각합니다.
저는 농사에 대한 아무런 지식이나 기반이 없는 상태에서 김제 스마트팜 혁신밸리 교육생으로 참여하게 됐는데요. 이론교육, 교육 실습, 경영 실습을 받은 뒤 현재는 임대온실에서 대추방울 토마토를 재배하고 있습니다. 이곳은 저같이 농업에 대한 접점이 없는 사람도 얼마든지 디지털 농업에 대해 마음껏 배우고 경험해 볼 수 있다는 점에서 매우 특별한 공간입니다. 이곳은 교육 이외에도 다양한 기술과 장비에 대한 실증이 계속되고 스마트팜의 농산업과 데이터들이 한자리에 모이는 거점이기 때문에 농업인으로서 도전을 준비하고 있는 청년으로서 최적의 장소라고 생각합니다.
저는 공공기관과 지자체, 연구기관, 관련 농가들이 활발히 교류하고 협업하며 끊임없이 배우고 연구하는 것이 정말 중요한 것 같다고 생각합니다.
디지털 농업이 더 이상 미래가 아닌 생생한 현재라는 생각이 듭니다. 미래를 열어나가는 청년 창농인으로서 책임감을 갖고 최선을 다하고 싶습니다.
This one is every narrative is real farmers, smart farmers provide some their best practice in digital agriculture in this area. I will share all video material and my presentation material sharing this one. If you want to my most material, please ask to coordinator. Please provide. Any download, sharing is possible. No problem. Any other question? If you have any, no question, I'll finish today's class. Please short question, please. Please name, please, first, and then.
Okay, thank you for the wonderful presentation. Sorry,
Your name?
My name is Gamba Abdullahi from Nigeria.
Nigeria, okay, good.
Yeah. So thank you for the wonderful presentation. And you talk of a multi-dimension concept of inclusive rural growth. And you gave us 5 points.
5 components.
So the last point talk of capacity to influence policy to improve rural livelihood, something like that.
Okay.
So my question is expansion of non-agriculture.
Farm employment opportunity?
Is it part of this last point? If not, why is not part of the 5 points listed here? Because we believe that the non-farm
employment.
Employment. We also improve the rural economic growth.
Okay.
So that's my first question. And the second question is the large scale and the government providing large scale and facility for the smart farm in the rural area. So my question: this smart farm, is it owned by the government or is owned by the rural farmers? That is the farmers living in the rural areas. If it's owned by the rural farmers, so what is the mode of payment to the government, or is it free?
You mean some government support for some?
Yes, the smart farm.
I think, okay, there are 2 questions. Yes. The first one is, in order to a component of household income in agricultural area, I think most of the country, there are the income sources in farm side, or farm side, or other side. I think it's, in Korea is about 25% in agricultural area, and off farm in about 35, around 40. I think each country is different. That means off farm income source is quite important to increasing farmhouse. I think in your country also, in off farm sector is the most important things. So how to create off-farm job. For example, in Korean case, green tourism or some manufacturing, farm manufacturing or farm marketing. That area also very important. So off-farm employment expanding, very important to inclusive rural development. Also, second question.
Sorry, before the second question, the off-farm
employment
is there. My question is non-farm.
Non-farm?
Expansion of non-farm.
Off-farm, non-farm, very similar. What's the off-farm, non-farm? Non-farm, off-farm is similar. What's the difference?
Yes, my idea, the little knowledge I have on, if we talk of non-farm, those are the activities, they are actually cultural activities that is taking place but not in the farm. So
I don't know exactly. You mean so quite different off-farm, no-farm?
Yes.
I just couldn't figure out.
Okay, I'm trying to give it. Okay, bro, it's okay.
Non-farm, off-farm.
Because yes, that is my only idea I have. The off-farm, there are cultural activities that is taking place but not in the farm. For example, like processing, marketing of agricultural product. These are agricultural activities that are taking place but not in the farm. Okay. Why non-farm? There are activities that is...
you mean some off-farm means some off-farm season?
Like diversification.
Okay, diversification.
Yes.
Right.
So...
income sources is diversification.
Yes, that is
right.
Non-farm.
Right.
Yes,
right.
Activities.
Right, quite right. But anyway, second question is government support for the initial establishment.
Okay.
Some kind of subsidy or some low interest rate, and the government strongly support for some smart farm. And then farm owners take advantage of some smart farm activity. I think only for the initially.
Okay.
Okay. I think, I don't know your country or not. Any other questions? Anyway, if you have a question, my lecture note, there are some email address there. If you have some more questions, please send email, or any other thing is okay. I will reply as much as I can. Some question I do not, my expertise, in that case I ask to the special expert and then I reply for that. Okay? I really appreciate your expertise, your active participation. I wish your best of luck to take a step after finish. In this coming December, you'll finish your master's degree. I hope everybody get a master's degree and take a reward your next step, PhD or any other your more higher position, other things. I really appreciate it. Thank you for your attention.